Have you ever wondered why you were here? Why you existed in the first place? Or have you ever thought about why God created you? In discussing the theory of being by Aristotle, it starts with having this two notions of what is a being. Okay, for Aristotle, okay, being has this part that is considered as actual and this part that is considered as potential. So every being has an actuality and has a potentiality. Now, the different thing about Aristotle and with Plato's philosophy is that Aristotle believed that there is no such thing as the world of being. Everything is here. Everything is found in the reality that we have today. Because Aristotle is more of a realistic thinker compared to Plato, who is more idealistic in some ways. So let's go back in terms of Aristotle theory of being. For Aristotle, a being has these two aspects. Again, you have the potentiality and you have the actuality and potentiality. It seems like Plato's notion of becoming and being, but it's different in some sense. Kasi nga bakit? Nandito lang yan. You don't need to go to another space, another universe just to find these things, okay? Let's talk about actuality. When we say actuality, we're talking about here perfection. We're talking about here unchanging. We're talking about your constant. Okay? When we say potentiality, it's the opposite. We're talking about here changing. It's dynamic. It's temporary. There's a continuous flux. So every individual or every being in our reality as of now has these two aspects. It's either you have more of actuality, less of potentiality, okay? But in a sense, in our reality for Aristotle, there is such a thing that is considered an absolute actuality or 100% actuality. It's like a line. It's like a line. One side is actuality. The second end is potentiality. So let's say we're talking about your 100% actuality. Can you think of 100% that is perfect? 100% that doesn't change or 100% that is constant or eternal in some ways? In Aristotle notions in his philosophy, there is such a thing called God. But it's a small g, not the large, not the capital G of God. Because during that time, it's not yet the Christian thought, Catholic thought God, but it's some kind of supreme being, and that being is considered as 100% actuality. It's perfect. It's not changing. It's eternal in some sense. If that is one end of the spectrum, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Is there such a thing that is 100% or absolutely potential or has the has is 100% changing or 100% imperfect in some ways? In Aristotle notions of philosophy, it's called nothing. There is nothing that is 100% that is changing, imperfect. It's called nothing. So let's review. So, medyo jargonic lang kasi yung mga terms ni Aristotle, so I hope you bear with me. So you have on this side 100% actual, which is God, and from the other side, on the end of the spectrum, you have 100% potentiality, which is nothing. Okay? Sir, is there really such a thing that exists in our physical reality that could be considered as 100% actual and 100% potential, or somehow more potential, less actual, or the opposite, more actual than less potential. Let's play a game. Okay? Think of a time capsule. You know what time capsule is? Okay? Ang mangyari, let's say you have a capsule, then you're gonna bury it for let's say 1,000 years, 10 years, 20 years. Then after 20 years, we're gonna dig it up again and see if whatever we put on the capsule still exists. Like that. So let's say I'll be asking you to put something on the time capsule that you think that after a year, not to say a year, after 10 years, would still be existing. Okay? If we put it on the capsule, in the capsule, then after 10 years, we dig it up, then pag binuksan nyo yung capsule, yun na yun pa rin yung makikita nyo. Think of an object, of a thing. Diba? Kasi that could represent actuality. Okay? One good example of that is gold. Or let's say a gold bar. Diba, if you put gold on a time capsule, bury it, then dig it up after 5 years, you open the time capsule, what can you see? Still gold. It's still the gold bar. Yung pa rin siya. It will not rust. It will not change its form. Siguro medyo may alik-alikabok lang pag binuksan nyo. Pero it's still the same. Diba? So that's one part of the spectrum. How about the other part of the spectrum? What can you put on the time capsule that you could say after 5 years, definitely it changed already compared to a gold bar? What could be one good example? Let's say an apple. If you put an apple inside a time capsule, again, bury it, then dig it up after 5 years. You open it up after 5 years, what can you see in the time capsule? Definitely, the apple would be nothing. Di ba? Bakit? Kasi the apple definitely, for 5 years, it will already what? Decompose, it will rot, di ba? Mawawala siya eventually. Then, after 5 years, you dig it up, you'll see nothing of the apple. So, I hope you're getting my point. One spectrum is perfection. One spectrum is imperfection. So, where does self lie? Nasaan ang tao? Nasaan tayo? Okay? Kasi, we're talking about the other side is changing. We're talking about the other side unchanging. So where does human lies? That's one good question. Where does the self lie? Actually, there's no specific point of this line where does the self is. But we could be somehow be careful about it. We could say the self is in the middle. For example, I'm not changing naman every minute, 'di ba? Every second, 'di ba? It takes time for us to change eventually, 'di ba? Pero is there a tendency for us to be perfect as well? You getting my point? We're not food naman eh. We're not food that for a day or 2 or 3 madidecompose, magra-rot. Hindi tayo ganun eh. Hindi rin naman tayo gold bar na tumatagal tayo ng ganun katagal. Hindi naman tayo tumatagal ng 100, may mga tumatagal ng 100 years, 1,000 years, pero a gold bar could exist longer than that. You getting my point? So we could say the self, or us humans, is in the middle of that spectrum. Okay? Nandun tayo sa gitna. Okay. I'll show another jargon. So let's leave that. Okay? So actuality again, then one line, its potentiality, and we could say that human beings or us self is in the middle. Okay. Let's go to another point of Aristotle in terms of his philosophy of being. According to Aristotle, human beings are rational beings. Okay? He believed that we are capable of reasoning. We are capable of questioning things. Okay? We are not one. We are the most dominant species, okay, in terms of intellectual capacity because of our ability to reason, to question, to wonder and to wonder about things. Okay? Because for Aristotle, we are rational beings. That is our essence. If you could recall the term essence, when you say essence again, we're talking about here the whatness, the quiddity of why we exist or why we are called humans. If you are not rational beings, you should not be called to be humans. Okay? That's one aspect of being of humans according to Aristotle. Now, okay, tatlo na binibigay ko, medyo nakakalito tayo kasi si Aristotle jargonic. Pero I'll connect everything in a sense. So one, that's part one. Then this is part two. Let's go with part three. According to Aristotle, every being in this reality, okay, is or has a cause. It has a cause. Mean to say may pinagsimulan. Okay? Every being in this reality has four causes. Okay? You have the formal cause, you have the material cause, then you have the efficient cause, including the instrumental cause, then you have the final cause. Inulit ko po. Every being in this reality may be changing or may be perfect in some sense, has its cause. There is a cause why you exist in this reality. You have four causes. Again, you have formal, material, efficient, and you have finite. Let's talk about this one by one. Let's have an analogy to explain this thoroughly. Let's say you have a marble. Alam niyo yung marble? Usually, you use marble in making statues or in making monuments. Okay? You have this piece of marble. Then, let's say, one of my class, okay, who is fond of me, mahal na mahal talaga ako, then nagkaroon ng mga magaganda ng buhay nila, di ba? Eventually, they decided to make a monument of Sir Santiago. Next, you're gonna make me a monument. Okay, just what? You decided your badge, di ba? You decided to make me a monument sa harap ng CMU. Sa harap ng CMU, may-ari. Di ba? Now, what is now the cause of that monument? What is that formal cause? What is its material cause, its efficient cause, and its final cause? When you say form, okay, when you say form, I'm talking about here form. It's not form same as Plato. It's not form. For Aristotle, when you say form, we're talking about here the structure. We're talking about here a design. Okay? So if you're gonna make me a monument, or you're gonna make Sir Santiago a statue eventually, what is now your form? Definitely, you're talking about here the design of that monument. Or you're talking about here the blueprint of that monument. How would be its structure? Okay? Paano kaya ang itsura niya? Okay? Ano kaya ang dating? How it would be designed? So we're talking about here form as structure or design or the blueprint. Okay? So kung gagawa niyo ko ng monumento, ano yung blueprint? Anong itsura? Gaano kalaki? Gaano kaliit? Diba? Next, the second cause is the material cause. When you say the material cause, what is the composition or how would it be made up? Definitely, it would be made of the marble. Diba? The monument will be made of marble. Kasi when you say material, it's the composition, it's the substance. Okay, what makes it up eventually. Okay, so in our analogy, it's the marble. When you say efficient cause, we're talking about here, let's say, may marble ka. Diyan ay marble. Meron ka ng blueprint, meron ka ng design. Ano na lang kulang? Ano na lang kulang? Imagine, ano na lang kulang? Siyempre, yung gagawa. The sculptor. Di ba? And the tools that the sculptor need to mold the marble into my monument. Okay? So, the efficient cause is the maker. Okay? Or the one who will who will form it using the material cause. The material cause. Tama. Diba? So, at this point, it's your sculptor. And the last one is the final cause. What is now the final cause? The final cause is one of the most important cause to be considered. Why? Kasi the final cause is the reason or the purpose why you have to make the monument. You have the sculptor, you have the marble, and you have the design. But the question is now, bakit ko ba to gagawin? What is the sole purpose of why our batch would make a monument of Sir Santiago? Bakit si Sir Santiago? Bakit hindi ibang professor, di ba? Bakit hindi si ganito, hindi sa ganyan? Ay, si Sir Santiago. That is the final cause. You getting my point? I hope you're getting my point. That's the point of Aristotle kasi. But to sum it up kasi, here's the thing. What's the idea behind this? Aristotle is saying that every being here in this reality was made by something. It could be made by a supreme being, the sculptor, may it be God or may it be who's God we're talking about here. Okay? And you were designed by that something or by that supreme being, and you were made by that, or you have this composition, you have that substance that makes that design. But the question is, whoever that supreme being is that made you, is why it made you. What's the purpose? Why that sculptor, that God created you? You getting my point? Kasi for Aristotle, you have to be rational. The Creator made us rational as part of our essence. I'm now connecting the dots sa mga pinag-discuss ko kanina. You were made by God or any supreme being as a rational being. But the thing is, since human beings are in the middle of actuality and potentiality, there's a tendency for us to be nothing and there's a tendency for us to be perfect. But how to attain that is you have to be rational. And how to be rational at this point? You have to find your meaning. You have to find your purpose. Bakit ka ba ginawa? Diba? Why were you made? Sa lahat-lahat ng nilikha ng Diyos, diba? Bakit ikaw? Ano, nagkamali? Nagkamali ng design? Diba? You were just drawn to sa design. Tapos nandiyan ka ngayon, you don't know the meaning eh. Why you exist. Diba? But to find this meaning, you have to use rationality. You have to question. You have to find answers and you have to find reasons. Kasi if you don't use your rationality to find this final cause, you would end up nothing. Getting my point? But if you find this reason why you're here, why you are here, why you exist, there's a tendency for you to fulfill your perfection. There's a tendency for you to fulfill your actuality. You getting my point? This is something beyond things because human beings are gifted with rationality and you have to use that to find meaning in life, to find your sole purpose why you're here. But it's never finding it. Okay? It's not just finding it. It's not when you look at beside you, it's already there, diba? We have the capacity to create meaning. Always remember this. We have the capacity to create meaning. It's not just about searching for it. It's also about creating it. Because you're given rationality, you can create meaning. And if you do that, there's a tendency for you to achieve the actuality that is Aristotle wants you to find. You can go to this spectrum of perfection. But if you don't use it, you don't search, you don't create, there's a tendency for you to go to this spectrum and be nothing. I hope you're getting my point, guys. Kaya nga, my first question before the start of the vlog is, why are you here? Why you exist? Why God created you in the first place? Some of you, I know, has a hard time answering that question. But always remember, it's not about just finding it. It's also about creating it. That's why most people feel what we call existential vacuum. It's more of a psychological term, not philosophical. When you say existential vacuum, it's a feeling of finding no purpose in life. You feel empty. Diba? Why am I here? I cannot even find answers. Meaning to say, you're being drained. You're being vacuum. Diba? Kinukuha yung buhay mo because you're feeling no purpose, meaning, or existence in life. Diba? And eventually, you end up as nothing. Kasi hindi mo siya mahanap because you're forgetting to use rationality. I hope you're getting that, guys. Because Aristotle is giving us more of what we could see as ourselves. That we are here for a purpose. We have to search it and we have to create it. So how are we going to answer the question, who am I? According to Aristotle. How do you characterize yourself according to Aristotle? I have a purpose. Is that persistent? I would not say it's persistent. Every one of us naman has a purpose every other day. But from time to time, it changes. But it's not about creating. Again, it's not just about searching for it. It's about creating it. Diba? It's not persistent. One purpose could change some other day because of some experiences. Is that unique? No. It depends on how you create it. It depends upon the product of how you search it. Diba? Meaning in life. It depends on you. That's why it's not unique. Right now, this is my purpose. Your purpose is that. Not the same. Diba? So who am I according to Aristotle? I have a purpose. So I hope you find it interesting to understand Aristotle's philosophy, that every one of us has meaning. It's a matter of searching it, and it's a matter of creating it.